Hello friends, welcome to the class of anatomy. Today we are going to study extraocular muscles. This lecture is prepared from standard textbooks and reference books recommended by MCI, Pravra Institute of Medical Sciences, deemed to be university. Text and diagrams used in this presentation are from following books: Textbook of Anatomy, Head, Neck and Brain, Volume 3, second edition by Vishram Singh, which is of Elsewhere publication. Gray's Anatomy for Students, 2019 edition, and Textbook of Anatomy by V.D. Chaurasia. This presentation is only for the purpose of teaching students and not for its commercial use. The specific learning objectives of this presentation are, according to the competency-based medical education AN 4.1 and 4.3.5. At the end of this session, all the first MBBS student must be able to describe correctly the extraocular muscle, their attachments, nerve supply, actions, and applied anatomy of the extraocular muscles. To start with, if you know the anatomy of orbit, it will be better to understand the extraocular muscles, their attachments, and the related anatomy. If you see this norma frontalis, there are various bone which forms the norma frontalis. For example, this is a frontal bone. This is zygomatic bone. This is maxillary bone. This yellow colored is sphenoid bone. Here a small lacrimal bone. This is nasal bone. Now we will see what are the orbits. Orbit is a pyramidal cavity, one on either side of the midline. It is situated on each side of the root of the nose. So this is root of the nose and this is a orbit. It is a pyramidal cavity. Orbit provides sockets for rotatory movements of the eyeball. One of the most important content of the orbit is eyeball. If you take larger view of the orbital cavity, we will see this type of picture. In this, you can see various bones walls. This is a medial wall of the orbit. This is lateral wall of the orbit. You can see, as we have said already, it is a pyramidal cavity. This portion which is open is the base of the pyramid, and here you can see the apex which is near the optic canal. So this is the optic canal. Here is the superior orbital fissure and this is inferior orbital fissure. If you see the medial wall of the orbit, the bones forming are, this is the frontal bone, this one is ethmoid bone, this is lacrimal bone, and this one is a maxillary bone, and this is zygomatic bone. And here small portion of palatine bone comes. Now there is a floor, lateral wall, and the roof as well. The roof is formed by orbital plate of frontal bone. So this is the orbital plate of frontal bone. Then lateral wall, some part of the frontal bone, and the zygomatic bone. Inferiorly, if you see, there is a maxillary bone. Again, orbital process of maxillary bone. This is zygomatic bone. So these bones form the floor of the orbit. The openings which you can see are, there are ethmoidal foramina. This is nasolacrimal canal. its upper opening is here. This one is optic canal, which passes through optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. Then this is superior orbital fissure. Various nerves and vessels, they are passing through superior orbital fissure, and also the inferior orbital fissure. So bones contributing to the orbit are maxilla. This is maxilla. This one is maxilla. Then zygomatic bone. So this is zygomatic bone from here. This is zygomatic bone. Then frontal bone. So from here, this whole portion is frontal bone. Then ethmoid bone. So this is ethmoid bone. Then lacrimal bone. This is lacrimal bone. Then sphenoid bone. You can see this is a sphenoid bone. So it is the lesser wing of sphenoid, and this is greater wing of sphenoid. So between these two wings there is a superior orbital fissure. So all these bones along with small portion of palatine bone contribute to the various walls of the orbit. So that was bony orbit. So bony orbit has base and apex. So you can see, suppose this is a base or of the pyramidal shaped bony orbit, and this one is the apex. The base is opening anteriorly. So pyramidal cavity's base is opening anteriorly, while apex is extending in the posteromedial direction. So if you see the axis of the orbit, it will be like this, which is not straightforward. It is directed backwards and medial. So this is the axis of the orbit and axis of the eyeball. The blue colored dotted line, which is this one, is the axis of the orbit, and red colored dotted line represent the axis of the eyeball. Now if you see, as orbit is pyramidal cavity, its medial wall is straight forward, while lateral wall is directed forwards and laterally. Due to this, axis is directed backwards and medially. You can see backwards and medially. But the axis of the orbit and the axis of the eyeball, they does not coincide with each other. So axis of the orbit and axis of the eyeball, they does not coincide. The axis of the eyeball is not in line with axis of the orbit. So if you see the walls of the orbit, already we have seen there is a lateral wall. This one is lateral wall. This is medial wall. Then this is superior wall and the inferior wall, or you can say roof and the floor. Now coming to the contents of the orbit. Most important content of the orbit is eyeball. So this is eyeball with its various parts. Then covering fascia. So this is fascia. The orbital fascia is also called as periorbital fascia, and the bulbar fascia is the facial sheath of the eyeball. So it has two parts, orbital and the bulbar. Along with this, other contents are extraocular muscle. So extraocular muscles are one of the most important content of the eyeball after the eyeball. The vessels which are present in the orbit are ophthalmic artery and its branches, and ophthalmic vein and its tributaries. The nerves which are present in the orbit are, you can see this is optic nerve. Then along with it we have trochlear nerve, abducens nerve, oculomotor nerve, and branches of the ophthalmic nerve that are supratrochlear and supraorbital. Then another important content is lacrimal gland, ciliary ganglion. So all these are contents of the orbit, and all these contents, they are embedded in, you can see this yellow colored structure which is present as a packaging material in between these contents and keep them protected and safe, and this content is orbital fat. So this is an orbital fat. Now we'll come to the extraocular muscles. The extraocular muscles, you can see this is an eyeball, and around which you can see all these are brown colored extraocular muscles. There are about 7 voluntary extraocular muscles. Out of those 7 extraocular muscles, 4 are recti and 2 are oblique muscles, and 1 is levator muscle. One by one, each muscle we are going to see. The extraocular muscles, there are 3 involuntary extraocular muscles as well along with voluntary. So 7 voluntary and 3 involuntary. First we will see the 3 involuntary extraocular muscles. They are classified, or they are labeled as superior tarsal, inferior tarsal and orbitalis. First we will see the superior tarsal muscle. The superior tarsal muscle is the deeper portion of the levator palpebrae superioris. So you can see this is the levator palpebrae superioris. Its lower portion is called as superior tarsal muscle. It is one of the involuntary muscle. This muscle is inserted on the upper margin of the superior tarsus. So you can see this is the inserted on the upper margin of the superior tarsus here. And this muscle is responsible for elevation of the upper eyelid. Elevation of the upper eyelid. The inferior tarsal muscle, it extends from facial sheath of the inferior rectus. This is the inferior rectus. Its facial sheath must be somewhere here. And inferior oblique in the lower margin of inferior tarsus. So you can see this is the lower tarsal plate and this is the lower margin of inferior tarsal. So the muscle will be from here to here. So this is called as inferior tarsal muscle. Possibly it may be responsible for depression of the lower eyelid. Depression of the lower eyelid. So muscle is here and depression of the lower eyelid. And the third involuntary is orbitalis. This orbitalis bridges the inferior orbital fissure, and action of this orbitalis is uncertain or not known. Now we will see the voluntary extraocular muscles. Out of that, first group is recti muscles. The recti muscles are 4 in number. 1 superior rectus denoted by SR. So you can see this is superior rectus muscle. Here also this is superior rectus muscle. Second muscle is inferior rectus. Inferior rectus. Inferior rectus is below here. From this lateral view you can see this is inferior rectus. The third recti muscle is medial rectus. So you can see medial rectus is here. In this diagram you can see this is medial rectus. medial rectus. Then lateral rectus. This one is lateral rectus. So in this diagram, this one is lateral rectus. So these are 4 rectus. Now what are the oblique muscles we will see? The oblique muscles are 2 in number. One is superior oblique and other is inferior oblique. So in both the views, this is superior view and this is inferior view. In superior view, we can see the superior oblique. So you can see this is most of the part of the muscle is present just above the medial rectus. This is then there is a trochlea where central tendon is anchored, and then another fleshy part which is here. So this is superior oblique muscle. And in a lateral view, you can see this is an inferior oblique muscle. And the last one is levator muscle. The levator muscle is levator palpebri superioris. One by one, each muscle we will study: origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action. The 4 recti muscles take origin from common tendinous ring, which is called as annular tendon. So here you can see a white colored structure is common tendinous ring or the annular tendon. Here also you can see. What is common tendinous ring? It is a thickening of periosteum of the orbit. It surrounds the optic canal. So you can see this is an optic canal. This is a superior orbital fissure. This is inferior orbital fissure. And this structure is common tendinous ring. So this common tendinous ring is the thickening of periosteum of the orbit near or surrounding the optic canal. It also bridges the superior orbital fissure. So you can see here it is bridging over the superior orbital fissure. In this diagram also you can see it is present here. Now, superior rectus muscle is arising from upper part of the annular tendon or tendinous ring. So you can see here the rectus superior or superior rectus muscle here. The inferior rectus is arising from inferior part of the ring. This is inferior ring. Then medial rectus is arising from the medial part of the tendon. So this is medial part of the tendon or the ring. Then lateral rectus is arising from the lateral part of the annular ring. That is how annular ring or the tendinous ring gives origin to muscles. The superior rectus, inferior rectus, lateral rectus and the medial rectus. Now coming to the insertion. Recti muscles are inserted into sclera. Sclera is outermost fibrous covering of the eyeball. It is little posterior to the limbus. Limbus means it is the junction between sclera and cornea. So limbus is also called as sclerocorneal junction. So you can see here this is a sclerocorneal junction or the limbus, and behind this in the sclera majority of the or all the muscles or the 4 recti they are inserted. The average distance of the insertion from the cornea or the limbus are superior rectus is inserted about 7.7 millimeter from the limbus in the sclera. The inferior rectus is about 6.5 millimeter. Medial rectus is about 5.5 millimeter. So, and the lateral rectus is about 6.9 millimeter. So, superior rectus insertion from the limbus is measuring around 7.7 millimeter. Inferior rectus 6.5 millimeter. Medial rectus 5.5 and the lateral rectus 6.9 millimeter. So in this diagram you can see superior rectus, this is lateral rectus, somewhere here is the inferior rectus, and on either side that is the medial rectus. So here is the medial rectus, and this portion is called as sclerocorneal junction. This is the transparent cornea, and this white color structure is sclera, and this is limbus. So from limbus around 7.7, 6.7, 5.5 millimeters all cells are inserted. Now what is the nerve supply of all these recti muscles? Out of these 4 recti, superior, medial and inferior recti are supplied by third cranial nerve or oculomotor nerve. So you can see here, this is medial rectus, this is superior rectus, this is inferior rectus. So all these muscles are supplied by oculomotor nerve, while lateral rectus is supplied by abducent nerve. Okay, so lateral rectus is supplied by abducent nerve. Abducent nerve is the 6th cranial. So the superior branch supplies the superior rectus and levator palpebrae superioris. The inferior branch supplies the medial rectus, inferior rectus and inferior oblique, along with one branch to ciliary ganglion. So that is how oculomotor nerve supplies to the extraocular muscles. Now, actions of the recti muscles and movements of the eyeball. If we consider the action of a single muscle, they are described as the superior movement of the eyeball is called as elevation. The inferior movement of the eyeball is called as depression. The medial movement of the eyeball is called as adduction. It is called as adduction. The lateral movement of the eyeball is called as abduction. So elevation, depression, adduction, abduction, and other movements, that is internal rotation and external rotation. Few of the muscles take part in that also, and these movements are called as intorsion and extorsion. So internal rotation is intorsion, external rotation is extorsion. We will see in the conjugate movements. So individual actions are: superior rectus is responsible for upward rotation or elevation. The inferior rectus is responsible for downward rotation or depression, and the medial rectus is responsible for medial rotation or adduction, and the lateral rectus is responsible for lateral rotation or abduction. Now we will see the yoke muscles. To direct the gaze, gaze means to look fixedly. Gaze means look fixedly. Coordination of both eyes must be accomplished by the paired action of the contralateral yoke muscles. For example, in directing the gaze to the right, in directing gaze to the right, the right lateral rectus and left medial rectus act as a yoke muscle. So gaze means look fixedly. So if you want to see on the right side, the lateral rectus of the right side along with medial rectus of the left side act together, and these two muscles are called as yoke muscles. Now we'll come to the superior oblique muscle. So we have seen voluntary recti muscles. Now we'll come to the oblique muscles in that superior oblique muscle. The origin of the superior oblique muscle is from body of the sphenoid, exactly superomedial to the optic canal. Superomedial to the optic canal. The insertion of the superior oblique muscle is in the sclera of the orbit, but before inserting, it is anchored with the help of fibrocartilaginous pulley, which is attached to the frontal bone at the trochlear fossa to change the direction of the pull of the muscle, and that is why this muscle is oblique. It is inserted into the sclera behind the equator of the eyeball, between superior rectus and lateral rectus. So you can see this is the superior oblique muscle. This is the tendinous pulley which is anchoring at the trochlear fossa. And now you can see the change in direction of the muscle, and it is inserted somewhere here. Note also its origin and pulley. So you can see here, this is origin, this is the pulley, and this is the insertion. Now we'll come to the nerve supply of the superior oblique. The superior oblique muscle is supplied by fourth cranial nerve, which is named as trochlear nerve. Fourth cranial nerve or the trochlear nerve. Now coming to the inferior oblique muscle. The orbital surface of the maxilla and lateral portion of the lacrimal groove gives origin to the inferior oblique muscle. So it is arising from the orbital surface of the maxilla lateral to the lacrimal groove. Insertion is, of course, like other extraocular muscles, it is inserted on sclera of the eyeball, but it is inserted between superior rectus and inferior rectus. Superior rectus and inferior rectus, a little below the insertion of superior oblique. The nerve supplying to the inferior oblique already we have seen, that is oculomotor nerve, and the action of the inferior oblique is upward and lateral rotation. Similarly, action of the superior oblique is downward and medial rotation. Downward and medial rotation. So you can see the inferior oblique muscle. So this is inferior oblique muscle. Now we'll come to the conjugate movements of the eyeball. If you see this diagram, we can see various movements of the eyeball. Elevation, depression, adduction, abduction, then intorsion and extorsion. Now if you see the adduction, mainly responsible muscle for the adduction is medial rectus. medial rectus. Then for abduction, lateral rectus. For elevation, superior rectus along with inferior oblique. And for depression, inferior rectus along with superior oblique. So these two muscles together causes depression, while these two muscles together causes elevation. Superior rectus along with medial rectus and some help from inferior will cause adduction, while the inferior oblique along with lateral rectus will cause abduction. So elevation, depression, adduction, abduction, intorsion and extorsion, these are the movements of. We will see now how these movements of the eyeball take place along the axis. Now if you see, these are the three axes around which the eyeball is moving. First, antero-posterior axis, green colored. Along this antero-posterior axis, movements possible are medial and lateral rotation. Medial and lateral rotation. Okay. Along the transverse axis, the movements possible are elevation and the depression. Okay, elevation and the depression. Then along the vertical axis, the movements possible are, you can see, adduction and the abduction. Adduction and the abduction. So these movements around these vertical axis, horizontal axis and antero-posterior axis are possible. So you can see here all these muscles, how they are responsible for the movement of the eyeball. So you can see the inferior rectus, this one, inferior rectus and superior oblique, both are responsible for depression. Then superior rectus, this one, superior rectus and this inferior oblique, these two are responsible for elevation. They are responsible for elevation. Then lateral rectus is responsible for abduction, while medial rectus is responsible for adduction. In this diagram you can make out. So this is the axis around which various movements took place. Okay. Now intorsion and extorsion. Intorsion and extorsion place we will see. The superior rectus and superior oblique, these two cause intorsion, while inferior oblique and inferior rectus, these are responsible for extorsion. Superior rectus, superior oblique, responsible for intorsion. Inferior oblique and inferior rectus, responsible for extorsion. And naturally the medial rectus, adduction, lateral rectus, abduction. So you can see both the movements they are possible. So movement of the both eyes medially is adduction. Responsible muscle is medial rectus, superior rectus, inferior rectus together. Then movement of the eyeball, you can see lateral rectus along with superior oblique and inferior oblique. Then you can see intorsion, the superior rectus along with superior oblique. Then extorsion, inferior oblique along with inferior rectus. So that is how these movements took place. Now last muscle 7, that is levator palpebri superioris. The origin of the levator palpebri superioris takes from orbital surface of lesser wing of sphenoid. So this is levator palpebri superioris. And lower portion of that already we have seen, this is orbitalis, and you can see this is the tendon which is inserting into the upper eyelid. The insertion is superior tarsal plate. So this is the superior tarsal plate, and some portion is inserting into the skin of the upper eyelid. So that is the insertion of levator superioris. Nerve supply is oculomotor nerve. Action, it raises the upper eyelid. The division of oculomotor nerve causes severe drooping of the upper eyelid, which is called as ptosis. We will see how it in clinical anatomy. The clinical anatomy of the extraocular muscles. If there is a weakness or paralysis of muscle, any of the one muscle, it will lead to the squint, or it is also called as strabismus. Squint or strabismus. And if there is a paralysis of levator palpebri superioris, it will lead to the ptosis. Ptosis means drooping of the upper eyelid. Also, you must be able to test the extraocular muscle, whether it is paralyzed or not. So we should able to test the muscle by how it can be done, we will see. First we'll see the squint. Squint is also called as strabismus. It may be concomitant strabismus or paralytic strabismus. The concomitant strabismus means it is congenital squint. There is no limitation of the movements and there is no diplopia. Diplopia means double vision. And the paralytic squint or the strabismus means movements are limited. Diplopia and vertigo are these two important symptoms which can diagnose the paralytic squint. The head is turned in the direction of the function of paralyzed muscle. So if lateral rectus of right side is paralyzed, the head is moved towards the right side. And there is false orientation of the field of vision. And this is drooping of the upper right sided eyelid, you can make out. This is called as ptosis. Clinical testing of the extraocular muscles. This can be tested by examining the examiner's finger. You have to ask the subject or patient to follow your or examiner's finger in such a way that the pupil, so this portion is called as pupil. The pupil is moved in an extended H pattern. You can see this H is there, but it is extended H pattern. to isolate and test individual extraocular muscles. So if you ask, suppose this is a medial side. This is a medial side. This is lateral side. This is superior side and this is inferior side. So if you starting from here, if you go laterally, medial rectus is tested. After going laterally, if you go above and ask him to see, inferior oblique is tested. Similarly, if you go downward, the superior oblique is tested. Now after coming here, if you go laterally, the lateral rectus is tested. Again, after seeing lateral, if you ask him to see above, the superior rectus is tested. And if you ask him to see below, that is inferior rectus is tested. So thus the movements and the muscles can be tested with this extended H pattern. The integrity of their nerve is also diagnosed by testing with the help of this H pattern. So this is all about the extraocular muscles. The extraocular muscles can be asked as a short note in examination. A single muscle can be asked, or together enumerate the extraocular muscle, describe any one in detail. In that you have to write about origin, insertion, nerve supply, action, and also the clinical anatomy related to it. Thank you.